Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Thursday, May 19th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions, then this will be a video for you. Before I get to the watch list, I first want to personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online class that I'm offering very soon. So if you like what you see as I go through the video and you want to learn more about how the tool can be used to build consistency, then definitely get signed up for the free class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you like what you see, then certainly get signed up for the free class. A couple of quick clarification points. First off, this price over here you see will be changing around because the market's still open for a small amount of time. But I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day type price movement on video. And then also I'll be using the 30-minute time frame. So for your beginners out there, what that means is that each one of these candlesticks, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. So stock number one here, BRQS, pretty popular stock from a few weeks ago and got life today once again via the volume, and it did pull back, but overall some interesting dynamics are going on, especially from the pullback standpoint. Whoops, let's change up that. There we go. Pullback dynamic here around this gap close location at 17.5 cents. Now, do gaps have to close? No, nothing in the market has to happen. But when gaps do close, is that like shocking to people? Does that catch people off guard? Absolutely not. Again, there are no guarantees. Nothing has to happen. But is it at least plausible? Is it at least a logical thought process to have that a gap could close? Yeah, absolutely. So by no means are you crazy to think that the price could come down there and then bounce off that area, especially when you factor in that the price also has that purple line right there, which on my chart denotes the 50-period moving average, where they're basically, one and the same right now. So keep an eye on that from a pullback and support standpoint. As far as areas of resistance, all about that pink line right now, which on my chart denotes the famous 200-period moving average, and right there is why it's quite famous. Right there got rejected, and as it moves downwards, you want to keep a close eye on that current value at the 22-cent mark. But if you like to play pullbacks, if you like to play penny stocks, then this is definitely one I'd say to get on your watch list. Next one, BBIG, and this is on the watch list for a very straightforward reason, and the reason is that I don't have any special talents. I'm not trying to impress you and imply that this is a great discovery. The exact opposite. What do I mean by all that? Well, when you have patterns that a whole lot of people are watching, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want, it can produce some very dynamic movements, and that's what we have here. So like I said, I assure you people around the world have drawn that trend line right there. They've noticed that as a potential resistance, and then they've also drawn something like this down here to highlight where the price has bounced from today, right around that 307 mark. And for, my sake, going to change that to green to represent more of a support level. And then to make this all the more easy to see, let's make it one color. So we have our resistance, we have our support, we have the momentum move right here. Let's put the golf hole down here to make it more visual. And this would be known as a bull pennant pattern. So again, guarantees do not exist, but is it valid? Is it plausible to think that if the price can work its way up to the top of that pattern and then get a pattern breakout, that could create additional buying pressure? That is certainly a valid thought process to have. So while not guaranteed, by no means could anybody call that some sort of random thought process to have. Not at all, especially when you have a very well-defined bull pennant pattern here. So we'll see what happens with it on Thursday. Next one here, AMC, and all things considered, a good solid day. The markets got absolutely destroyed today, if you're not aware. And sure, AMC did pull back, so there is a bit of perspective. Meaning, if you're a day trader and you bought right there and your plan was to buy and sell within 10 minutes, well then yes, from that perspective, the chart looks pretty bad. But assuming you care about the general big picture of things, the overall trend is still upwards. And I don't know why I have so many green line here, but let me get rid of these ones as, yes, they all still pertain, but they're not really relevant and they're just causing clutter right now. But in fact, I'm just going to get rid of that level here because I think the best way to just monitor the current uptrend right now is via that purple line there, the 50-period moving average, which, is basically what I like to call them trend lines for lazy people. I mean, if you don't feel like drawing a trend line, well, this quote-unquote moving average is going to draw itself for you. So in other words, as long as the price stays above that trend line, then the overall trend is still clearly in the upwards direction. And even with the, the bloodshed today that took place, the price, is still, it's not even really at that level. It's still nicely above it. So you're going to want to watch that moving forward. But a lot of prices did today indeed get shoved down below that 50-period moving average on their charts. But AMC, like I said, technically speaking, didn't even test it. So like I said, from that angle, ultimately a pretty healthy day. If there is any sort of movements back to the upside, all eyes going to be on that 200-period moving average, which I talked about previously, that currently valued at 1350. Next one, AGRI, and like AMC, all things considered, a very solid day. The difference here is that this one has spent the afternoon actually starting to recover back to the upside, which makes it a very unique situation, and that's the whole idea of a watch list. Identify interesting situations, and then watch them. Not just randomly buy them, but watch them and see if they continue to behave in a way that, ultimately fits into whatever your personal trading strategy is. And again, given the context of the markets getting destroyed, and this one still being in an overall uptrend, and this one pulling back, sure, but then starting to move back upwards, like I said, in my mind, this is a very unique, very interesting situation that's worth watching, especially if you like to play stocks that are down below the $5 mark. So as far as supports are concerned, if there are any sort of pullbacks, the level that revealed itself today, right there at 260. And then as far as levels of resistance are concerned, right up there at $3.10, pretty interesting level. So we'll see how things play out. But there's no doubt about it. This thing continues to chip away and put in those higher bases, and that's what it's all about. Now, I should have put this one in a different spot within the watch list, going back to the self-fulfilling prophecies and bull pennant patterns, because that's exactly what we have here. So I'm not going to repeat myself. Hopefully you remember what I talked about in regards to, what was that, BBIG, I believe. But overall, like I said, nothing fancy here. Not trying to apply this as some sort of special talent, secret discovery. But I got to think that a lot of people have drawn that trend line right there as a top part of the pattern. Bottom part of the pattern, a lot of people are going to be watching right down here at the 42-cent mark. So let's get that changed to green, again, to represent an area of support. And then just to make this all the more visual, we have resistance, we have support, we have the momentum move right there, we have our golf hole down there, and there is the bull pennant pattern. So if you like to play penny stocks, if you like to play bull pennants, then this one I would say definitely belongs on your watch list. Next one, DPSI, and this one's looking pretty shaky, but for you longer time viewers, you've heard me say it before. There can be opportunity in ugly. So yeah, there's no doubt about it. From where the price was all the way up here to how it's pulled back and pulled back and pulled back, certainly looking pretty shaky, but within the grand scheme of things, it is still in an overall general upwards movement. Now, to be fair, this could very well be the start, the start of the end where it keeps drifting downwards, 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 and that's why risk management and risk control is so important. However, that is a two-sided coin, because maybe this is just a temporary pullback and then all of a sudden the overall uptrend resumes itself. So that's also possible. But the level here that, stands out to me right there at $7.50 as potential pullback point. Now, if you want to get extra picky, extra high maintenance, you could say, no, I want to see this thing fall all the way down to this moving average area down here around the 550 mark. And like I said, that could very well happen, but I mean, that would require this thing to get a whole lot more uglier than it is right now. But again, that's just personal preference. That's going to be based on how, your personal analysis of things. And then as far as resistance levels, and we'll just call it this, the self-fulfilling prophecy trend line, because again, I assure you a bunch of people have watched that level. So keep a close eye on that. But in my opinion, at least the most interesting dynamic here is how this pullback has gotten pretty ugly. But let's see if this is ultimately just a pullback that turns out to provide a good solid entry point for an upside move. Same exact premise here. So I actually did put this one in the right spot within the watch list because yes, it is looking ugly. I realize price was up there. Now it's pulled all the way back here. But what's interesting with this is the price has gone sideways now. No, don't get me wrong. Just because the price has gone sideways, and I wish I could say trading was this easy, but just because the price gone sideways does not mean that for sure guaranteed that this pullback is over and that the price is going to go back upwards. Like I said, if only it were that easy. But is it valid? Is it plausible to think, hey, maybe, just maybe, this sideways movement is a leading indicator that this is indeed the end of the pullback? Yes, that is a plausible thought process to have. So if you, like I said, penny stocks, if you like to play pullbacks, then, this is now a very well-defined area here where the price finally stopped going down at 73 cents. So like I said, if you believe in the overall trend, if you believe that this is enough to symbolize that the pullback is over, then certainly worth watching. Next one, SOFI, and I would call this a very, very strong day within the general context of the markets getting destroyed. And sure, this one did pull back from its highs, but it wasn't even anything that intense. Like AMC, this one got a little bit closer to that purple line, the 50-period moving average compared to AMC, but still, it never even quite tested it. So you got to give credit where credit's due. A very overall strong move, and this overall bounce continues. In fact, today put in even higher highs than what it's seen for quite a while. So like I said, for that reason alone is what makes this a very intriguing chart, because, again, I don't mean to repeat myself, but the reason why this one is on the watch list really has nothing to do with the chart, other than the fact of, well, it does have to do with the chart, you know what I mean, because obviously we're looking at the chart, but in the context of the chart holding up very nicely, given the market's just getting smashed to the downside. So you got to think that if the markets show any bit of upwards movement at all, any bit of upward strength, that you got to think that this thing continues in the upward direction. But keyword I'm using is think. I don't know that for sure, but to think that way, in my mind, that is a more than plausible thought. Next one, PLTR, did this one yesterday, and you can see that today the price came up around this 845-ish mark and did ultimately hold as resistance and then pulled back here. But once again, as I just talked about within the context of the markets today, impressive sign of strength that this thing was able to at least go sideways and maintain right around that support level at the $8 mark, which I talked about previously, compared to some stocks which came down to supports and then dropped below them and then just continue to drop and drop and drop. Wasn't the case here. So it did start to go sideways, which means that it's at least valid to think that, okay, maybe this support is going to hold. Maybe this downwards move is finally out of energy. But to be fair, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a temporary pause and it keeps on going. So once again, why risk management matters. But point here being, overall, I would consider this a relatively strong day because of how bad the markets were and that this thing is right now seemingly holding up right around this $8 mark. And if you can get a bounce back to the upside from a risk-reward standpoint, you could be looking at a solid little trade plan. Next one, TSLA Tesla, and this is one where, it didn't show any signs of strength. The overall market definitely just shoved it downwards. You can see this morning, once the price broke down below that area of support, it wasn't like PLTR or anything like that. It just got hammered all the way down here to that round number of $700. I think it actually hit a low like 701, but close enough on a $700 stock. So that's going to be the level now that moving forward, I think a whole lot of people will be watching. And like I said, it's a round number. It's where the price bounced off of today. So you're going to have longs and shorts and everybody in between watching that level and wondering if 700 does get tested again, what's going to happen. The longs who are right to think this way, they're going to be thinking, hey, I could see a bounce. The shorts who are right to think this way are thinking, okay, if the price breaks down below there, I could see that creating more downside pressure. Again, both parties are correct, but somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong, and that's why you got to manage that risk. But that doesn't take away from the fact of, again, going back to the philosophy of a watch list, hey, this $700 mark is an interesting area to watch and then potentially form some trade plans around. If there is a breakdown below 700, then the next key level of support at that point, not until down around that $680 mark. If there is any sort of bounce in the upwards direction, key area to watch is going to be that 50-period moving average, right now valued at the 744 mark. So that wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here and you want to learn more about this tool and how it can be used to help build consistency, then definitely get signed up for the free class. Like I said, it'll be very soon, Thursday, May 19th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy this format, then do two things. Hit that like button and leave a simple comment down below. Tell me what you traded today. Leave me an emoji, but hitting the like button and leaving a simple comment communicate to me that you enjoy these videos. As long as I know people are enjoying, then I'll continue to create this sort of content for you. So again, if you like what you saw, certainly get signed up for that free class. Hopefully I'll see you there. Everybody take care. Have a good one.